Well, good evening. Let's get the show on the road. All right. Good evening and welcome to the library. Let's get me on camera right here with Lenny, my buddy. And Victor is in the background as usual, hanging out. So, tonight's subject is Illinois. Ghost stories from the state of Illinois. Let's light our candles. Can't have ghost stories without candles. Let's get that light off over there. We have our backup candle over here just in case. Now, let me say hello to folks in the chat. Mustang Mike, Surviving Together, Arm Distance, Adam, Nancy, Delilah, Gianni, Tommy Stiggs. Yes, the candle is crooked. There it is, right there. Just for you, a crooked candle. Emmanuel Spataro, Mustang Mike, Suzanne, Zelda Z, Gerard, of course. Who else am I missing here? I saw Osada Treats before. Theme is listening. Todd Father is here. Co-Train is here. Did I miss anyone? I hope not. Wow, a lot of comments already. What's going on here tonight? Everybody's talkative. Patty Joyce in the house. Cheech in the house. Great to see everybody. Thank you for spending a little time with me on this Friday evening. Tony the Night Owl, how are you, my friend? All right, let's get into our stories. Now, I've got 4 locations that I got stories about. And then, of course, I have some paranormal videos, which we can discuss, or we can debunk, or we can believe, or what have you. So that'll be fun. But let's start off with our actual stories. Now, 4 locations, all within the state of Illinois, and some of them have multiple ghosts in them. So there's more than enough to talk about here this evening, even though I don't have that many distinct ghost stories. I usually have more. I usually have 5 or 6 distinct ghost stories, but I think there's kind of more than that in this hodgepodge of locations and stories. So let's start off, first off, with Woodstock Opera House. Now, the Woodstock Opera House, let me show you what it looks like. I have a lot of pictures up here because I'm ready to go. So it takes me a little while to find it. All right, here we go. This is what we're talking about. This is the Woodstock Opera House. Hello, Big Bones. Hello, Arlene. Thank you for coming in and hanging out. All right. This is the Opera House. It was built in the 1800s. As you can see, it's quite a lovely architecture. It has a huge tower on it. And I'm going to show you what it looks like on the inside as well, because that's important. It's part of the story. So let me go to the next picture here. Here's the inside of it. And you can see it's quite old, quite cozy. Carpeting, low lighting, quite a cozy opera theater house. The seats you can see are very old. So it's kind of the place that you'd like to go. It's a new experience, right? And it's still operating to this day. It's not abandoned. It's not anything like that. It's an operating opera house in Illinois. But the story that I'm going to tell you is about one particular ghost that seems to inhabit this opera house. And it's a woman, or the ghost of a woman, by the name of Elvira. Now, the story goes that Elvira was a young, beautiful, blonde-haired girl in the late 1800s who dreamed of being an opera singer and a ballet dancer. So she was both. She was very artistically inclined, and she dreamt of this. This was her life's goal. And she made her way to this particular opera house. And there was a very big ballet that was traveling the country and was making a stop here. And because of that, they were also open to auditions because there had been losses to the company and they were looking for new women to participate in this particular ballet. Well, she goes and tries out for the ballet. Now, unfortunately, to her chagrin, she is rejected by the ballet troupe. And this was devastating to her, to the point that she decides she can no longer live with the fact that she did not get into this ballet. Now, here's where the story goes into two different directions. One story says that she climbed to the top of that tower I just showed you and leapt to her demise. Another story says that she hung a rope in the rafters on the stage behind the curtain and took her own life that way. Now, regardless of how it actually happened, the point remains is that this poor young woman took her life because she felt she had no future. And because of that trauma, because of that horrible incident, her ghost, her spirit still haunts this place. Now, she's a very active spirit in many different ways. Now, and it's been going on for many, many years. And it's to the point that they actually have a designated seat in the opera where, in the theater itself, where no one will sit in. And that's designated as Elvira's seat. And it's seat DD113. No one sits in that seat. And it is said that during performances, when a performance begins, the seat, you saw the seats that I showed you, they are all in an upward, the bottom of the seat is in an upward it starts in an upward position. And as people, you push down and you sit in it. They say as the ballet begins or the opera begins, that seat will slowly go down and remain down throughout the presentation, as if Elvira's seated there watching the opera or the ballet, watching the theater, whatever happens. And it also, people claim to hear applause coming from that specific seat at the end of a presentation, at the end of a play, at the end of a ballet or whatever. The sound of applause will come, a single applause will come from that particular seat. Now, that has happened for quite a while, and it's also said that at night sometimes when caretakers will come in to clean up afterwards, the hall will be empty. They'll open the doors, and they'll see a silhouette seated in that chair. And as they approach it, it will vanish, and the seat will come up. So a very active spirit whose life was this opera house, and wanted to be here so long and wanted to be here so dearly that she did not leave. She's still there. So that's the Elvira, the ghost of Woodstock Opera House. And it's said that she has long blonde hair. When she does appear, if you see her, she'll have long blonde hair. And in fact, she is such a known legend that they put on a play to her each year, I guess around Halloween. I wasn't sure exactly when they do it. And they have an actress that actually comes in and is Elvira. And here is a picture. I'll show you. There's a picture, a promotional picture for it. If I could find it. Here it is. Now, the seat where this ghostly image is here, this is supposed to be Elvira. And this is not claimed to be a real ghost photo. This is just a promotional photo for the theater. Where this woman is standing next to is the seat. It's in the balcony. It's DD 113. It's on the end. And this is the seat that no one will sit in because it's reserved for Elvira. So quite an interesting tale if you ever want to go there. I'd like to go see this place simply because it looks beautiful, but it makes it even more interesting to hear the story and to anticipate possibly encountering this spirit. So there you have it, the ghost of Woodstock Opera House, Elvira. All right. Don McHugh, good to see you, my friend. Who did I miss? I saw some other folks come in, too, that I haven't said hello to, and I want to make sure I do. Sweet Tea is here. Good to see you, Sweet Tea. All right. So that's number one. Now let's go on to number two. Number two is about the Devil's Chair of Greenwood Cemetery, Illinois. Now, the concept of a devil's chair is not exclusive to this particular state nor cemetery. It is a concept that has been around for a while and all over the country. And basically, it says that there is this chair in a cemetery that was originally what they would call a mourning chair for people to come and visit their loved ones and sit there for a while and mourn. Somewhere along the route or along the time, these chairs began to acquire a connotation of that they were a link to the evil of the underworld, the devil, Satan, etc., etc. Why that is, I don't know, but it's a recurring story that happens around and around and around. Now, this particular chair, this devil's chair, is located in Greenwood Cemetery, as I said, and it's in Decanter, Illinois. And this area in question was actually a Native American Indian burial ground before it became a cemetery. It became a cemetery around 1857. Prior to that, it was a Native American burial ground, and therefore, in addition to the cemetery itself, of the bodies of the settlers that came there in the 1830s originally, there are also the remains somewhere about of Native American tribes. So who knows? Could that have something to do with the activity here? I don't know. But anyway, there's multiple ghosts here, but let's talk about the chair itself first. So the theory about the chair, let me show you first what this cemetery looks like, and then we can go from there. All right. Let me close some of these other windows out because it makes it easier for me to figure out where I am here. All right. All right. The Devil's Chair. Here we go. This is what the Devil's Chair looks like. This particular Devil's Chair. And as you can see, it was actually carved out of wood. The arms and the back look like tree limbs, and the base looks like it's the tree trunk of a tree, but it's not. It's not the actual tree trunk of a tree. It was placed here by someone, but this is what it looks like. This is the chair in question. Now, the story goes that if you sit in this chair, this particular chair, that is, if you sit in that devil's chair at a certain time, and that time being Halloween night at midnight, the devil will appear, or a representative of the devil will appear, and will offer you and tempt you with a pact where you would you put up your soul, and in exchange you would get 7 years of whatever you want. 7 years of wealth, 7 years of success, 7 years of having a party. But on the 7th year, after that 7th year expires, the devil will find you wherever you are and take your soul, take possession of your soul. So is that worth it? I think not. Now, I can't find any stories of anyone who actually did this and regretted it. But in addition to the devil's chair itself, which I said, and that story goes in most of the devil's chair legends around the country, is that you sit in the chair at a specific time in an evening, the devil or his agent appears, and you have the option to sign a pact where you trade your soul for great riches. So that's the basic concept. Now, in addition to that, in this cemetery itself, there's also various type of activity that goes on beyond the devil's chair. For example, there are spook lights that are unexplained, that just pop up and flash throughout the night. There's also been noticed to be a phantom funeral procession that occurs in this particular cemetery. It'll start from one end, go around, circle around, and then end at a particular graveyard and then vanish. Some say they have seen that at night. I don't know. There's also the sightings of a young woman in a wedding dress, and the story goes behind her. She was a young bootlegger's wife during the 1920s, and was somehow murdered on the night of her wedding by accident. That her gangster husband, there was something that went on with her gangster husband, and as a result, she ended up getting murdered and never got to complete her wedding night. So she wanders about this cemetery looking to complete her wedding night. I don't know. Interesting. There's also a Confederate soldier, a mass grave of Confederate soldiers in this cemetery. And it is said that people have seen a huge amount of Confederate soldier spirits rise from that grave and begin to walk the night. Quite a sight that I would be, very hesitant to see. But in any case, the story behind that is indeed true. There was a mass grave there of Confederate soldiers after the Civil War. And later in the 1890s, there was a flood in this area. And what happened was there was so much rain and so much water. that the bodies began to rise up from the flood and were disinterred themselves, and it was a complete disaster. So quite a creepy, unhinged type of cemetery because of the things that went on there. Basically, dead bodies all over the place. Hello, Shannon Smith. And at that time, skeletons, dead skeleton. Skeleton. There's the only type of skeleton is a dead skeleton, but skeletons, as you might say, at that point, the decomposed bodies in a mass grave. There's nothing left but bones at that point. So, quite a creepy thing that happened here at Greenwood Cemetery. Aside from the devil's chair itself. All right. So there you have that. That's number 2. Now let me see something here. All right, let's go on to our third story, which is the ghost farmer of Bachelor Grove Cemetery, another Illinois cemetery that is said to be haunted. Bachelor's Grove. Now, this is located in the southern suburbs of Chicago. Now, Bachelor's Grove, during the 20s, during the teens and the 20s, the 19-teens and 1920s, it is said that many gangsters and bootleggers, again, from the city of Chicago, would dispose of bodies in this cemetery, specifically in the pond that is part of the cemetery's property. Now, this cemetery is not used anymore. It's completely abandoned. There are obviously still graves there, but they're so old that no one really visits them, and they're just kind of left in disarray and decay. Now, a lot of things happening around here. A lot of things happening to me. So let me show you first what I'm talking about, so you can see how creepy this cemetery really is as an abandoned type of area here. All right, first of all, this is the pond. This is the pond that's right next to the cemetery. So this picture is taken from the cemetery looking out over the pond. And on the other side of the pond here, you'll see there's a roadway here. And that roadway comes into our story in a little bit. So remember that roadway there. Now, let me show you what the cemetery itself looks like. Now, this photo was taken in black and white, and it's taken at the end of a day. So it's quite creepy. You can see the sun kind of coming through the leaves, but this is what it looks like. These are small abandoned tombstones, I should say. And this is, actually the pond, which I showed you, this is as if you were standing where I showed you the pond and you turned around and took a picture of the cemetery. This is what you would see. So that's basically what it looks like. It's a small abandoned cemetery, the pond of which was used to dump bodies by the mafia and mob people, not just the mafia, Irish mob, everything, just everything. So, so that is that version of it. There's another picture I wanted to show you of the cemetery that I have, which is, it's not in black and white though, which is better because you can get a better look at it. I thought that one was very creepy. That's why I showed that one. If I could find it, I may not have it here. Give it one more shot here. Here we go. I found it. So this is what it looks like in color in the daytime. Very desolate, unkept. There's a small fence around it put up in vain to keep people out, but teenagers and such still come here at night looking for a party and having fun, et cetera, et cetera. And because of that, a lot of the tombstones have been disrupted and moved around over the years by vandals. So not a pretty thing when it comes to, you know, honoring the deceased. All right, so there you have it. Now, what goes on in this cemetery? Well, it is said that there is. Hi, Bobo. I don't think I said hello to you. Good to see you. There is said to be a phantom farmhouse. Now, this phantom farmhouse will appear on that site. And then as you approach it, you might say, wow, there's a farmhouse here. I never noticed it on the outskirts of the cemetery. As you approach it, it will begin to shrink and then vanish before your very eyes. So it's basically a farmhouse, a spiritual farmhouse, a phantom farmhouse that is residual energy from what may have been there many, many years ago. There's also the phantom farmer himself. Now, this particular individual is said to have been the farmer who owned the land around the cemetery, and you will see him appear with his plow, hand plow, and a spiritual horse. And you will see it on the outskirts. You'll see it plowing land on the outskirts and then will vanish as they reach the pond. And the story goes because what happened was, while in reality it was doing, while in life, the farmer was plowing, the horse reared up out of control, scared by something at some point in which it reared up, and the farmer ended up falling into the pond and drowning. Both the horse himself, they both died in the pond. So you will see it around the outskirts of the pond. So a ghostly farmer, full farmer hat, gear, pushing a plow with being pulled by a workhorse, by a plow horse. You might see that happening there. Some people have even said that after the ghost disappears, they see a two-headed ghost following him. Now, I couldn't find any story as to where this comes from, but people have said they've seen it, a two-headed ghost. Wow, bizarre, following the other ghost as he plows. Who knows? There's also a famous photo, and I'll show you. I'm going to show you it in a little next. That was taken in this park by old-fashioned camera, regular camera, not a digital camera. That also has been analyzed, and it is said to be a photo that captured the spirit of what they call the Madonna. They call this ghost the Madonna. I don't know why they call her the Madonna, but anyway, I'm going to show you what it looks like. If I can here. All right, here we go. Where are we? Like I said, this was taken in the early 90s, 1991, I believe, and taken with a regular film camera, black and white. Someone, again, taking black and white photos, I guess artistically. I don't know why they were black and white, but this was black and white. And this is what they captured. Now, you can clearly see a woman sitting there on this tombstone. And the photographer who took this swears that no one was in the cemetery at the time, that he was simply taking photos, artistic photos of the cemetery. He did not see a woman sitting there. This simply appeared when he had the film developed. Now, if that were to happen to me, that would be the creepiest thing that ever happened to me. If something like this appeared in my photos came back from Photomat and this was in it, I don't know what I would do. But if we take the word of the photographer, this is a legitimate spirit that was photographed in the cemetery, sitting on that small tombstone. Now, the story behind this spirit is that the reason they call her I guess this is the reason they call her Madonna. I don't know. That it's said that people have seen her wandering around holding a child and the child appears to have passed. So the spirit is holding a child and crying of having the loss of this child, yet carrying it around the cemetery. So quite a creepy thing to encounter. So Gerard, you've sat on that very tombstone. I know you're from Chicago. Did you ever hear about the Madonna? Did you? I'm assuming you did. If you sat on that tombstone. I mean, I haven't been reading the chat, but I'm assuming you, if you did that. Forest preserves. Okay, right. Have you ever encountered anything there, Gerard? I'm wondering. Have you ever encountered anything? That would be interesting if you ever encountered anything in Parker's Grove Cemetery. So, anyway, this is the Madonna, or what appears to be the spirit called the Madonna. All right, let's get rid of that. Let's move on. Now, I think I do have a picture of that stone without the Madonna on it. Hold on. So you get a good perception here. So, Gerard, you didn't encounter a spirit, which is, I guess, good. But given that, here we go. This is the stone, what it looks like without the spirit sitting on it right here. Why were you sitting on that stone? Were you sitting on that stone because of the legend? I'm just curious as to why you would sit on that stone. But there you go. So you could see that this is not a statue. It could have been a person. But if we believe the photographer, it's not. But this is what it looks like on any given day. It's just a flat tombstone stone here. All right. All right, there. So there you go, Bachelor's Grove there. In addition to that, what I've told you, there's also been tales of monks being seen, the spirits of monks in red robes that seem to appear and wander around the grounds. I couldn't find a backstory for that. There is no history of a monastery or anything like that in the area, but that's one of the tales, that there are a few spirits of monks in red robes that wander about the cemetery at times. Of course, there's flashing blue or orbs, etc., and that type of stuff. Hi, Cranky. I don't think I said hello to you. Thank you for joining. And then remember when I showed you the pond, that road in the background? It is said that there's actually phantom cars that are seen on that road. And they seem to be phantom cars of a particular time period of the 30s, of the 1930s. So, your real classic cars from the 30s, that's who you might see on that road, but they're spiritual. They're phantoms. They're not actually there, but you'll see them on that road, which I thought was very interesting. That I never heard of ghost cars alone like that, but ghost cars, I guess, residual haunting that road. All right, so those are the multiple stories within Farmers Grove. All right. All right, now our last story is the wreck of the Hagenbeck Wallace circus train. I never heard of this particular circus until I found this story. But at the time, in the early 1900s, the turn of the century, there was quite a few individual circuses that would travel around the Midwest. This was one of them, the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus. Now, the story about this is quite tragic because on the night of June 22nd, 1918, the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus was on its train. It had just returned from a performance hold on, let me check where it was. In Michigan City, Indiana, and was en route to Hammond, Illinois. And they had stopped for the night to rest. Now, when these trains stopped to rest, they would have circus men that would come out and put flares around the train just in case another train were to come by, there would not be a collision. So the circus men would come out, light their flares, put them around, and the performers would continue to sleep in the cars, in the train cars, rather than come out just for the night. They wanted to stop the train so people could sleep, and then they would move on the next day. Well, they did just that on the night of June 22nd, 1918. Unfortunately, as the train slept in the middle of the night at about 2 a.m., a troop transport train, so a military train, a train transporting military people for World War I, troops going out for World War I, came proceeding down the railroad tracks, did not see the flares, and collided head on with the back of the track of the train. And as you can imagine, this was a disaster. Now, I actually have pictures of some of the wreckage of the disaster, which I'd like to show you, so you get a good idea of how bad this was. And of course, when something like this happens, you're going to have probably spiritual activity. All right, here we go. Now, I will show you what this looks like. Here is a shot of the train wreck the next morning. Now, you could see the devastation of this. Just terrible, terrible. This was the troop transport locomotive, and this is what it barreled through. As you could see, a huge fire erupted after the collision, which engulfed many of the cars that were filled with circus performers. And when all was said and done, there were hold on, I have the number here somewhere. I think it was 54 or 56, no, 61 people killed. 61 circus performers were killed in this tragic accident. Now let me show you. As a result of that, as a result of such a loss of life at that time and the war effort going on, there wasn't many to take care of this, right? So what did they do? They dig a mass grave and they bury all of these folks in a mass grave on that particular location. And that becomes this particular cemetery, which is Woodland Cemetery. It becomes a part of Woodland Cemetery. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. Hold on here. This is quite a morbid sight. This is the mass grave with makeshift coffins put in and people mourning them. Just a terrible, terrible scene. So when it was all said and done, there were 61 folks that lost their lives, even children. And one of the more tragic stories related to this was the fact that there was a clown who was part of this circus, and his name was hold on, let me see what hold on, here we go. Here we go. His name was Coyle. Joe Coyle. Now, I actually have a picture of him. He was, I guess, a celebrity at the time, a clown celebrity. And he survives the accident, but unfortunately, his wife and daughter do not. And the horror of the story is that they were trapped in one of the cars that was on fire and they were screaming for help. And he attempts to save them, but cannot. So he basically sees his wife and daughter perish in the flames and the smoke of this tragic accident. So Joe Coyle, one of the more famous clowns that were part of this circus, lost his family in this accident. All right. So that's a picture of Joe Coyle. Now later on he goes on to live a while, but then when he dies, he's brought back, his body is brought back and is buried in the same area as his wife and daughter. Now the thing about this that makes this even more creepy is because of the mass grave, because there was so much to deal with here, and because they didn't even know and have all the information that they did, some of the graves, the mass grave area is marked with little tombstones that simply say weird things like unknown male, unknown female. And I have a couple of pictures of these things: horse driver or carriage driver. Like it's quite strange. I've never seen a cemetery like this before, where the people's names are not there. Kind of like the unknown soldier, or But here's an example. This is one of the tombstones. All they have is this person's nickname. His nickname was Baldy, so they put Baldy on the plate. That's all they had because they didn't know his name. Because the people that knew his name were killed also. So quite a bizarre type of thing there. There's also here's another one. Like I mentioned, this is horse driver, 4-horse driver. That's all. His occupation basically is what identifies this poor man's grave, is his occupation, no name. And as you can see, the common date, June 22nd, 1918. So just a terrible, terrible spot. And, where the mass grave is, it's called a section of the cemetery. It's a section of the cemetery called Showman's Rest. And now, in addition to the mass grave, there's also other circus performers who are buried there over the years. And that's why, Joe Coyle was brought back there and buried close to his wife and daughter, because there were other circus performers there as well that didn't necessarily die in this particular accident, because this area was purchased to be a resting place by the Showman's League for former performers who had passed away. So it was a place for them to rest eternity. So what goes on in this particular cemetery as a result of this horrendous accident that happened in 1918? All down here. Let me show you. This is just a quick picture of the circus itself, of their famous troupe of clowns at the time, the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus Clowns. All right. And then here is a picture of what the entrance to the cemetery area looks like. As you can see, it says Showman's Rest, and there's an elephant, statue of an elephant. And here these are additional graves in addition to the mass grave, the people that have come afterwards and had been buried here. So a resting place for circus folks, basically, is what it turns out to be. But because of such a tragic accident and the large loss of life, there's a lot of ghostly activity that happens in this cemetery. There's sounds of elephants at night, which is interesting to me because no elephants were killed in the accident, but there's still the sounds of elephants trumpeting at night in this cemetery. At times, people will hear circus music playing on the wind. That circus, that type of stuff. Like out of nowhere, they'll hear the circus music play. Out of nowhere, you'll hear loud, rowdy laughter as if the crowd is responding to the performance of the clowns. You'll hear that echoing through the cemetery. And then the sound of applause, many applauding the performance. And some even say you see Joe Coyle's ghost, wandering about looking for his daughter, trying to save his wife and daughter who tragically perished in that awful accident in 1918. So a lot of residual haunting type of activity that occurs in this cemetery because of such a large loss of life. And but nothing really malevolent. And none of our stories tonight are malevolent at all. They're all either residual or just simple hauntings that are not harmful or necessarily scary. Trying to scare people, just encountering them might be scary. So you had the Hockenbeck Wallace Circus train wreck. We had the Ghost Farmer and Company of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. We had the Devil's Chair of Greenwood Cemetery. And then we had the Ghost of Woodstock Opera House, Elvira. So those were your four main stories tonight, all from Illinois, the state of Illinois. And as with any state, there are a ton more ghost stories, but I try to pick out the ones that interest me because I can't talk for hours on end telling you every single story. And we'll save those other stories for then when I go around again after I do all the states, and I'll come back and do stories from that I didn't do the first time. So there you have it. Those are your stories for this evening. I hope you enjoyed them. And now I will move on to our paranormal video segment. So stay tuned, hang out, and tell me what you think of these. So let's get that started. Let's start with this one. If I can get it to start here. What am I doing here? Okay, here we go. All right. Let's share. All right, this one is coming out of Mexico, I believe. A hospital in Mexico. Now, hello, Crewmel. I didn't know you were here. Great to see you. All right. So this is, as you can see, this is a hospital bed. And you see this little child here, right? So here's a person. There's a patient here. There's a person here visiting. And then there's a child standing here. Now, watch what happens. Watch what happens. The people walk through the child. Look at this. Watch this. When he came back around, you could see that he walks through the child. Let's play that again. Now, he could have gone, he didn't have to get him there. Now, her arm goes through his head. Look at that. Her arm just went through the kid's head, and now he walked right through him. When he walked back around, he walked right through that kid. So I don't know. Let's play this. Let me play this in slow motion again. And let me see if that makes any difference. Now he is. I see something. Let's do this. Let's see if we can debunk this. Now, as he's coming around here, right? I think he could have gotten between the kid and the bed. I think he could have done that. Right? Look at that. I think, but the kid doesn't move at all. You would think the kid would move back. If someone's walking in front of him, you'd think the kid, but the kid looks motionless. The kid just stands there. And as you notice, the kid doesn't move throughout the whole thing. The kid is just in the same position. Now, this woman's hand appears to go over his head. Look at this. Like that his head kind of vaporizes as her hand goes by. So it's really weird. I don't know. I think this man could have gotten past the kid here. Like he could have squeezed past him. There's enough room there, but the kid doesn't move at all the whole time. And this woman, I don't know what's going on with the arm here. The arm appears to cut off his head. And as she's over here, there's no head, as you can see. So I don't know. This one is kind of weird. Hi, Gina. Hello, Maureen. Good to see you guys. Gerard Shochelli, good to see you. So I don't know here. What do you think, guys? I don't know. Now, somebody asked about what in the beginning. What do you? Oh, this? I don't. That's just a hospital worker. I think that's just a hospital worker that goes out. But the kid doesn't move the whole time. Look at this. It's weird. Like I think he could have gotten past. And it's almost as if he sees the kid, right? And he turns, right, and hugs the side of the bed. But this woman's arm seems to go through his head, and his head vaporizes. So I don't know. Weird photo. Weird movie. I don't know. Hey, Slim. Good to see you, my friend. Tune into Slim's tonight at 10 p.m. He will be doing his usual Friday night show. All right, let's get rid of this. I think that's weird. That one is very weird. Let's get rid of it. All right, now let's go on to the next one, if I may. All right. Okay, here we go. Which one is this? Okay, what do you think of this one? This one is also from South America. Seems to be a lot of these from South America. I don't know what that means, but that seems to be a lot of these videos come from there. All right. Take a look at this. This is a road, obviously. Now watch to the right. Watch, look at this, which comes out of the bushes here and walks across the street. Right now there's a mass there, right? Now let's do this one in slow motion. See what we can find here. All right, so now we see, it looks like the body is materializing here. It's coming out of the bush area, right? And it strolls across the street. You actually can see the stride, right? You can see the stride, like the legs, the stride there, right? Walks across the street, right? And then like turns into like black fog and then vanishes. Now, I think this could be hi, just me. This could be the blur of the camera, like the blur of the motion blur, right? But where would it be going though? Look at this. Like there's nothing here to go to. There's a thick bush there. And the bushes don't move when it makes impact, right? So I think this is either if it's a hoax, it would be two images superimposed on one another, like a blurred vision of someone crossing the street put onto this existing footage. That's my my best attempt at debunking this one, there might be a blurred image put on top of this, because it doesn't make sense where it's coming from or where it's going, because there's no reason, there would be no reason for a normal human being to do this, to come out of the bushes like this and then go to the bushes. There's no reason someone would be crossing there. So what it could be is they took an image of someone, say, farther down here in the street, and because it was farther down, right, it had a blurred recording, blurred vision image, and they moved it up here. That's my best guess in terms of debunking. Other than that, I really don't know what to say. Then if it's not a hoax, then I don't have an explanation for it, because you can't explain this away as just being a normal picture with blur. It has to be two pictures combined. So I don't know. You may never know. We may never know. So you got to make your own decision on this one. Like you have to do in anyone, right? You have to do it in any case. All right. So that was number 2. All right. Let's see. Now let's go to number 3. All right, let's see here. All right, what do you think of this, guys? This is a video of a truck. It's a dash cam following a pickup truck at night, driving through a neighborhood. Now watch the back of the pickup truck as we go through this. Let me get it going here. Here we go. And you can see that there's a body or something. Someone standing in the flatbed of the truck. Now it disappears. Now, it could have been a mannequin, right? Something like that was in the flatbed of the truck, stood up like that, right? A statue of some type, because it doesn't look lifelike. It doesn't look like it's moving at all. It looks like a statue or something like that. But then it fades. It fades and vanishes. All right, let's slow this down a little bit here. Let's see. Now, that's just a reflection of the light of the car lights reflecting off the truck. But let's see what happens here. Right there, vanishes. Like, let me see. I don't know. Right here, it's basically gone. Now, what could have happened here? Could it have fallen? Could this be a statue or a mannequin from the motion of the truck that fell? And that's why it looks like it disappeared, but it fell. Right? Now, here's why I say that. Now, look to the driver's side of the truck, and there appears to be something. As this one, as it vanishes here, something appears down there to the side of the truck. So I think it could have just been a mannequin or a statue that fell. And because of the frames, the filming frames, it appeared to disappear. But it just fell down from the motion of the truck. It could be just that simple. I don't know. I mean, First of all, this is bizarre anyway. Anyone who would be driving along with some type of mannequin or statue in the back bed in the flatbed of the truck is a weirdo. Like, who would do that? Stand it up like that? I guess to get a good laugh. I don't know. So I don't know. Yeah, Delilah. It looks like when you get a good look at it, it looks like a sheet, right? It definitely does look like this right here. That looks like your classic ghost, right? Your classic guy in a sheet ghost holding something in the left arm, or maybe not. Maybe they're facing front. See, now here's where we're driving along, right? And then boom, it's gone. Now there's a lot of motion here, a lot of blur. I think it could have just fell down because there's also, you see that in the bottom of the flatbed, to the left of the flatbed, something kind of appears there. As that vanishes, something appears there. So that's all it could be. But it would be scary if you're driving along and you see this, especially at night, because you don't have the benefit of being up close and you see suddenly what appeared to be a person disappear. That would definitely shake you. So who knows? All right, there you have it. Those are your 3 ghostly videos for this evening, for what they're worth. And like I've said this many times before, it gets harder and harder to find these videos that are worth showing. I mean, there's tons of videos, but most of them there's not even a question. You can tell they're fake. It's just obviously fake. So I don't even waste your time doing that. Who's a weirdo, Todd Father? Who are you calling a weirdo? Oh, me? I called the guy a weirdo? Yeah, it would be. Yes, that would be a weirdo driving along in the truck like that. Gina thinks that number 2 was probably the most legit. And that's the one that my debunking of that one is simply theory. I don't back that up at all. I'm just trying to come up with some type of explanation for that black shadow. I don't know. That could be real. It could definitely be real. Lenny's always surprised, right? Right, Lenny? He's always chopping at the bit to get involved. But he never quite does. Just kind of sits there. He's wearing a Coors Light hat tonight. Coors Light hat, I'm sorry. He's a lightweight, right, Lenny? He likes Coors Light. All right. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Next week, we have a themed episode, ghosts related to football, which should be fun. As we approach the Super Bowl, I thought it would be a good idea. And then the week after that, we have Valentine's Day ghosts. So should be fun and interesting. Sunday's Groundhog Day. If you guys didn't see my video about Groundhog Day and the ghostly or creepy history of it, click on the link on my page. I reposted it under the community page so you could see it there. It's a good video. It's from last year. I covered all of the stuff about Groundhog Day, how it's related to ancient Celtic practices. It's a good video. Take a look at it. A lot of history in it and creepy tales, and the fact that they used to eat the groundhog. Can you imagine eating a groundhog? Oof, terrible. But check that out if you haven't already. I think you'll enjoy that one. Thank you, Todd Father. Thank you, Mustang Mike. Appreciate the kind words as always, and I appreciate every one of you. Patty Joyce, a great topic to explore is what people see. Wait, I'm sorry, I lost that. There we go. Love being next to a loved one. I would be all of us having a story. I worked for a hospice and saw many unexplainable things. Oh, okay, Patty. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've told my story, and we've heard stories before. We had Harlow Blonde was on telling stories about her encounter she had with her late husband. We've had a lot of stories about that stuff, and it's very common. I think you're right. I think that happens quite often. So, oh, thank you, Just Me. Appreciate that. Tony, thank you for the kind words. It's Friday. Oh, Delilah, you're ruining Todd Father's day. You're ruining his day. He does not like that at all. He does not like that saying at all. All right, guys. Like I said, check out Slim later on if you've nothing to do. 10 p.m. I don't know who else is on, but Slim is who I always promote because I know that he's coming on afterwards. So check him out. I'll stop in there later if I'm awake. I got to stay awake. A lot of times I fall asleep, but if I am, I will definitely check in and see what he's up to. So I recommend him. And as always, I thank each and every one of you for joining. I hope you'll join me next week and the week after that as we continue to explore the paranormal world, or at least stories of the paranormal world, and the history that goes along with them, because that's the best part of it is the history. So I'll blow out our candles as we do traditionally, and I will say on behalf of Lenny and Victor, thank you for joining us at the library, and have a blessed week. God bless you all. Thank you for being here.